Hello, I'm astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in 20.5 degrees of Aquarius, which will be exact on February 9th at 5:59 p.m. New York time and 10:59 p.m. London time. Now, I will talk about the best and most potent time to set intentions for this new moon towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And before we dive in, I just want to mention a couple of things. There are some membership changes that went into effect on January 24th with some new membership features and some minor price changes. So if you want to watch a brief video about those changes on my website or on YouTube, that is available. There will be a link below this video for you to click on if you are a member or if you're thinking about being a member. Now, we will also have another Solidity Today morning show called Hot Astrology Topics coming up on February 16th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. If you live in California, you can also watch this live via KMAT Radio at 98.1 FM at 8 a.m. Pacific Time. There will be links below this video. I will be interviewed by the lovely Brian Wesley Johnson, and I will give a preview about what to expect for February, with Venus making a powerful connection to Pluto in Aquarius on the 17th and Chiron to the North Node in Aries on the 19th. All right, and there will be a link below, or there will be also a link inside my new moon article. Now, back to the new moon. This new moon is also a supermoon, and the first of 3 in a row, causing significant shifts in consciousness. A supermoon is when the moon is closer to the Earth than with other moons, with other new moons or full moons. And this encourages a connection with like-minded people and also aligning with our values for stability and comfort. Now, the super new moon occurs just 6 hours before the Chinese New Year, which will be exact on February 10th. And the Chinese New Year is the beginning of the Yang Wood Dragon this year. And this symbolizes vigor, charm, strength, royalty, wisdom, and prosperity. And the dragon year is supposed to bring good fortune and power and passion and new opportunities. And the wood aspect of the dragon is a time for quick growth and development with sudden breakthroughs and fast changes. So it sounds very livening, this wooden dragon this year. So expect an exciting, creative, and transformative year with unpredictable events. The motto for this year could be never a dull moment. So ask yourself here is, where am I ready to take a risk this year? And where do I feel the calling to pursue a goal passionately? And where do I need to step outside of my comfort zone for a new adventure? Now, coming back to Western astrology, until April 1st, all the planets will be moving direct, will be in forward motion. And this is exciting. This doesn't happen that often. And this indicates an accelerated time of manifestation, and especially in connection to new projects or new ideas. And it will be extra important to stay focused and grounded and regularly check that we're moving in the right direction, in the direction that we actually want to be moving in. So ask yourself here is, what in my life is asking for accelerated progress? And what do I wish to manifest with the support of the universe right now or until April 1st? And just remember also with these questions, whenever I ask a question, it is not to find the answer, but it is to get in alignment with the energy. So tune in, allow the answer to come to you. Journal on the questions, meditate on the questions, or just allow yourself to sit with the question. Now, here's what we will cover in connection with this super new moon chart. Uranus, which is the planet associated with breakdowns, breakthroughs, and innovation, is the modern ruler of Aquarius, and so it's very important in this new moon chart. And it's currently in Taurus. It's still exalted at the time of the new moon. And it also makes a powerful square to the new moon and a trine to Venus in Capricorn. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll also talk about Saturn, which is the planet associated with building sustainable structures in our lives. And Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. and is currently in Pisces. And it's still in a sextile to Jupiter in Taurus. And because Jupiter has been sort of like going back and forth at the end of last year, this sextile has been in place since December 7th of 2023. So we're still feeling that. Then Venus is part of a planetary lineup, as what we call in astrology a stellium, that includes Mars in Capricorn, Pluto in Aquarius, and Mercury in Aquarius. So we'll talk about that as well. And this will also be Pluto's first new moon since changing signs from Capricorn to Aquarius on January 20th. And the new moon will also be in the same sign as Pluto. And with all of that, we are being urged to innovate in connection with our physical reality, including our body, our finances, and our planet that we live on. And we're also encouraged to bring integrity, maturity, to our relationships, to our collaborations, to our interactions. And we want to be choosing love over fear whenever possible. And again, more about all of this a little bit later in the video. Let's first talk a little bit about the Aquarian energy and what this energy represents before we jump into the aspects of this super new moon chart. Now, the highest vibration of Aquarius, which we want to aspire to, is to experience unity in diversity and to know ourselves as both an individual but also as an integral member of the collective, of the human race. We want to be transcending differences of gender, race, religion, and nationality. And at its best, Aquarius promotes equality, diversity, freedom, reform, collaboration, and unity, but not conformity. And the synergistic power of Aquarius allows for rapid progress. If we're living into these higher vibrations of the Aquarian energy, there will be rapid progress. Now, Uranus, which is the modern ruler of Aquarius, ended its 5 months retrograde phase on January 27th at 19 degrees of Taurus, and is still in that 19-degree Taurus energy. So the planet is still louder. It's been quite loud since January 14th because of this slow movement. And it will be exalted until February 9th, which is the day of the super new moon. Now, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, the planet of communication, and that encourages innovative thinking and alternative solutions to allow ourselves to be inspired and connect to the higher vibrations, to our higher self, and to allow for new way of thinkings and new way of going about things. Now, it emphasizes the need for change, especially our relationship with our planet, because Taurus is connected to the earth, and the physical realm. So we're being invited to shift our relationship from domination and exploitation to stewardship and co-creation. So let's take a look at the aspects of this super new moon chart. The exalted Uranus in Taurus trines Venus in Capricorn, and this gives us a chance to find new solutions to old problems. We're able to be more open to that and maybe even receive them through other people, through connections with other people. So ask yourself, what have I learned about honoring my body? And what about my material and financial resources or my talents? What have I learned about that? During the Uranus retrograde and during the station phase, what am I learning about these things? Where is there a shift happening in my thinking? And in what ways have I started to elevate my thinking about those things? Now, the new moon in Aquarius also squares an exalted Uranus in Taurus. So the ruler of Aquarius squares the new moon in Aquarius. And this is asking us for radical shifts in perception and in action. We need to think more creatively, allowing ourselves and others space to explore our unique values and preferences, all of our unique values and preferences. And you can ask yourself here, so what do I value differently from others? And how could these differences spark a creative process rather than being judgmental about the differences? How can it spark something creative? And where do I need to be more flexible? Where are the edges of the box I need to think outside of? So again, with these questions, allow yourself to either meditate on them, journal with them, just sit with these questions, allow the answers to come to you. Now, we all want peace and abundance, a world where we can enjoy life without interruptions. That would be ideal. And of course, Uranus has sort of like the need for creating something that's ideal and better in our world. And squares always mark significant turning points where we have to make some kind of shift before we can move forward. So you can ask yourself here is, what if I explored new alternatives that support what matters in my world and what is best for everybody concerned? And what if I were 5% more inventive, self-honoring, and willing to operate without social approval? And I think this is a very important question because we're very conditioned to operate with social approval, that it's important what other people think. It's important that we're being accepted by society and by our networks, by our groups, by our friends, by people out there in the world. And so what if we were 5% more willing to operate without social approval? To really know that whatever is honoring for me, whatever I am honoring within me that is true for me, and whatever I need for me in terms of my own values, honoring my own values, is ultimately what's best for the world and is ultimately what's best for everybody involved. So if we can come from that place that it's a win-win anyways, even if other people might not necessarily agree with what I need or what I need to honor for myself, but to add my own unique self to the web in the world brings benefits for everybody. Now, a spiritual revolution is definitely needed to create a new paradigm, to create a new way of being in the world between all of us. We have to shift from us versus them to a connection, to a we. And that only comes through loving acceptance and an opening of our hearts. And the most profound change will not be political or scientific, but it will be spiritual, recognizing our inherent divinity, equality, and interconnectedness that we all share. And so this is something we have to remember with this square between Uranus and the new moon. We might feel uncomfortable at times, but we have to remember that an open heart is the only thing that can really shift our connection to the collective. Now, Saturn, which is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, is currently in Pisces. And of course, that supports this spiritual journey, because Saturn in Pisces encourages us to focus on our spiritual journey, to learn about our limits, our responsibilities, and our spiritual authority. Now, Saturn also reminds us that being too influenced by external interactions or intellectualized social concepts will not lead to a truthful connection with our inner divinity. So ask yourself here is, what daily practice would strengthen my intuitive connection to life? And what works for me and what doesn't work for me around getting enough rest or downtime? Rest and downtime is very important with Saturn in Pisces. So if you're currently not sleeping well, or if you're currently not getting enough rest, really focus on getting better with that. And then another question you can ask is, how am I doing in terms of what works and what doesn't work with time away from technological devices and external input? Saturn in Pisces really wants us to tune inwards, away from all the buzz and noise from the world. Now, we might also want to take a look at our idealistic, avoidant, or dreamy and sensitive nature with Saturn in Pisces. So what you can ask yourself here is, what's getting in my way of having a more grounded spiritual experience in this human life? A more grounded spiritual experience, right? Because when we think of a spiritual experience, we always think of like, the third eye and moving up. But how can we ground this third eye energy and this connection that we have to spirit or to source or the universe? How can we ground that into our body, into our lower chakras? And what might be a practical, sustainable approach towards having a closer connection with source, with the universe, with life, and more practical, sustainable, right? That's Saturn, right? Practical, sustainable. We need to have that kind of an approach towards having a closer connection with source, with the universe, with life. And how might slowing down and trusting the flow of life support me with all of that? Of course, with Pisces, we want to trust. We want to trust that all is well all of the time. And Saturn wants us to explore that and see in what ways is that applicable to our day-to-day life. Now, Saturn is still in a sextile to Jupiter in Taurus, like I mentioned earlier, since December 7th of last year already. So feel free to watch my most recent full moon or new moon videos for more about this opportune aspect, as well as read my weekly forecast for June 19th, 1923. That's when that aspect was exact. So it's been going on for quite a while, off and on. But since December 7th, it's been ongoing. So there will be links below this video so you can check those out if you're interested. Now, the new moon in Aquarius also makes a sextile to Chiron in Aries and the North Node, because Chiron and the North Node are quite close together already. And this presents an opportunity to connect with others and engage in a healing process around our identity that could bring us some progress, possibly, where we can feel like we're making progress on this healing journey that we're on right now. So you can ask yourself with this sextile, what if taking a compassionate, humble approach towards myself and others made for a better future for all humankind? If we're just allowing ourselves to be a little bit more humble and more allowing ourselves to really embrace our own humanity and understanding that everyone is human. And human means not perfect, that we are learning, we're evolving, we are practicing things, we are trying as best as we can to be the best version of ourselves. And we do that the best way possible. And could I show the world by example what it looks like to be a humble and compassionate leader who inspires and doesn't judge? And the reason why Chiron doesn't judge is because it understands that there is imperfection. It understands that there is a feeling sometimes separate from our spirit side. And that, as a human being, we are dealing with so many things on a spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical level that it's sometimes difficult to be able to connect the dots, to really be wholesome and present to our own humanity and to other people's humanity. Now, we will focus on this upcoming Chiron North Node alignment in Aries in connection to our current healing journey in our next monthly forecasting forum on February 23rd. So feel free to join us if you're currently dealing with any physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual wounding that is bringing up feelings of shame or insecurities. We will dive pretty deep into that in connection with our own birth charts. So if you're curious how this is impacting you or how you can move forward in a beautiful way with that, feel free to join us on February 23rd. Now, let's talk about the planetary lineup, which is a stellium that includes Venus in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn, Pluto in Aquarius, and Mercury in Aquarius. Now, the Venus-Mars alignment in a very late degree of Capricorn represents a marriage of courage and collaboration, right? Mars has to do with courage, Venus has to do with collaboration. And this invites us to allow the masculine energies, which is Mars, active, doing, asserting, and the feminine energies, which is Venus, receiving, allowing, being, to work together in a responsible way, right? Capricorn, responsibility, maturity. So ask yourself, where am I called to be braver regarding my authentic standing in society? And what if I responded to situations in a way that respects and serves all those involved? Now, let's also take a look at Pluto's role in the super new moon chart. Since Mars is in 27.5 degrees of Capricorn, which is a very late degree, and Pluto just moved into Aquarius and is in 0.5 degrees of Aquarius, so half degree of Aquarius, there's only 3 degrees between Mars and Pluto, between those two planets. And that is creating a connection where they really influence each other. And this alignment connects our personal will, which is Mars, to the universal will, or our higher self's will, which is Pluto. And at its highest expression, this combination means that we have a tremendous focus at this time, and we can go after what we truly desire, like really forge forward into the world. On a more denser expression or a more denser level, we might get obsessed with our personal goals, trying to control outcomes at any cost, and perhaps become angry or even enraged when things don't go exactly as we want, or when we see things in the outer world that enrage us or that make us angry because we feel helpless or we don't have control over it. And to avoid obsessing over personal goals and controlling outcomes, it is crucial to understand our motivations. Where are we coming from? What is my motivation? So ask yourself, what if I became 5% more aware of my motivations for my actions that I'm taking? And am I motivated by fear or by protecting myself or my tribe? And might a more authentic emotional connection with like-minded people support empowering collaborations? And then Mars will make an exact alignment with Pluto in almost 1 degree of Aquarius on February 13-14 at midnight, like right on the cusp of 13-14. Venus will follow that alignment on February 17th. Mercury already aligns with Pluto on February 5th, but will be within 10 degrees of this powerful energy until February 11th. And therefore, it's also conjunct Pluto at the time of the super full moon. Now, watch out for ways you feel empowered or disempowered with your interactions to others or the world in February. When you feel a sense of disempowerment or helplessness, open your heart and trust the divine power within you and all around you. It always guides you to shed any attachments to wanting control or other self-protective behaviors. This divine power really wants you to live full out and with passion in your heart. And in order to be able to do that, we have to shed these attachments that we have that are usually connected to past trauma or past disempowerment. Now, this will also be Pluto's first new moon since changing signs from Capricorn to Aquarius on January 20th. And since the new moon will also be in the same sign as Pluto, we are getting a taste of Aquarian's darker side and its possibility for transformative interconnectivity and group consciousness. So ask yourself, what might be possible if I realized I was far more powerful than I imagined? And what if I realized that I'm exponentially more powerful when I combine my ideas and talents and heart with other like-minded people? Now, the darker side of Aquarius expresses itself as hypocrisy and herd mentality, adopting higher ideals without embodying them, and mindlessly following the crowd. So be aware of these darker expressions and ask yourself, where do I expect others to uphold ideals that I have yet to embody completely? And when do I trust others and their opinions without doing my own research or turning inward to see what aligns with my inner truth? And do I sometimes agree with others when my heart is not in it? So these are some more difficult questions to answer, I would say, whenever it comes to the shadow part of a sign or the darkest or the more denser side of a sign. It's a little bit harder to work with that energy. It's a little bit harder to embrace that and to answer these questions. So as best as you can, just be as authentic and as truthful. Really tune in and let yourself feel this darker, denser side of Aquarius. Be conscious of it rather than projecting it out into the world. Allow yourself to own it and work with that energy, because as you connect with it, as you work with it consciously, you can transform it and much easier move into that higher, lighter vibration of Aquarius. Now, to sum it all up, this super new moon emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for our unique contributions to society and our communities. It encourages us to consider our uniqueness and how it could make a difference in our networks and communities. And you can ask yourself, what if I allowed myself to be different and connected to others? And what stops me from being me when I'm with my tribe or with my people? Now, we are invited to let go of anything holding us apart, such as stories, fears, resentments, anger, and also embrace diversity as the greatest gift that we can give to each other. So as best as you can, remember why you're here at this momentous time on this planet. Think different, keep your heart open, and come together rather than separate from others. Come together. Help birth a new world one day at a time. Now, if you do have your ascendant or any personal planets in 18 to 23 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, or Scorpio, then this super new moon will have more impact for you personally. And if you don't have planets or points in those degrees or signs, look to see where does 20.5 degrees of Aquarius land in your own birth chart, because that house or that area of your life will be most impacted by this new moon for the next 28 days. If you don't know how to look that up in your birth chart, or if you don't have a birth chart yet, watch my class, How to Read Your Birth Chart, which is available for free on my website. On the homepage, if you scroll down to a box that says free class and you click on that, and it will teach you how to do that, and also where to get your birth chart if you don't have one yet. New moon intentions, let's talk about those. The new moon is the best time to set some powerful intentions for this month's moon cycle for the next 28 days. And this is best done soon after the new moon becomes exact and not during a moon void of course phase. Now, there will be a moon void of course starting with the new moon on February 9th, which means we are best off waiting until the next day to set our new moon intentions, which means that this month, the best and most potent times to set our intentions would be any time between 8:42 a.m. on February 10th and 5:59 p.m. on February 11th. And that's New York time, East Coast time. If you live in a time zone other than US East Coast and converting time zones isn't your thing, I suggest joining my Facebook fan page or following me on Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram. I will be posting reminders to let you know when to set your new moon intentions. Now, for more information about setting new moon intentions, if you haven't done that yet, click on the link below this video to read my article on that subject. I will talk you through what's the best way to do that. Now, if you have any general questions about astrology or anything else that I can support you with, please don't hesitate to reach out to info@astrologercoach.com. If you have any personal questions that require of me to pull up your birth chart, feel free to book a reading at astrologercoach.com. You can also ask questions connected to what's coming up within the next 30 to 40 days when you join the next monthly forecasting forum on February 23rd. You can send me questions in advance and I will answer them during the forum, during the webinar. And I will answer questions in the order that I have received them. So the earlier you send them, the more likely you'll get your question answered. And we will focus on the upcoming Chiron North Node alignment in Aries, like I mentioned earlier already, in connection to our current healing journey. Now, have a fantastic new moon. If you are a member already, I will see you again in about 2 weeks for the next members full moon video. And we can then see how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions. And if you're not yet a member of my online community, I will either connect with you on February 16th for my next radio podcast show, or on February 23rd for the monthly forecasting forum, or I will see you in about 4 weeks for my next new moon video. All right, so lots of choices. Have a fantastic new moon. Remember to go within. It's an introverted time at the time of the new moon. Much love, and as best as you can, take good care of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being.